Level 64 present. A Playguide and video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to another C64 Playguide and review. In this week's episode we'll be checking out Supercycle, produced by Stephen Landrum and published by Epix, released in October 1986. In this 2.5D racing game we play as a bike rider, and it's our job to complete over 12 levels to gain a position on the high score table. By pressing the fire button we can access the game options menu. From here we can change the colour not only of our bike, but we can also change the style and the colour of the riding leathers that we are using. So let's choose green as our bike colour, and let's change that style. You can have different colours there, but unfortunately no black, and it appears no white either. The brown leather looks terrible, so let's choose this ridiculous sky blue, and we can also choose the level, and so we can choose the first level, which is the easiest level. The levels do increase in difficulty, and they also increase in score as well. So if we're on level 3 we'll get the maximum score. And we are loading this from a disc, so yes, we will get loading in this game, but that's not so bad considering the thrill ride we are about to enter. By pushing up on the controller we can accelerate, and now our Supercycle can speed off down the road. We have 3 gears, and by pressing fire we can move through those, and if we pull back and press fire we can also downgrade our gears. And in this game it's speed which is the most important thing, and as you can see in top gear all we must do is overtake a few of these rivals. And no, we don't have rivals in this game, these are just drones, but we must overtake these guys and get to the end of the stage in the fastest time possible. If we just glance at the back of those riders that won't incur any damage, and unless we collide with something at high speed, and then we really will see an explosion in this game. You can see the time is ticking down there, so we only have a certain time limit, and any second remaining will give us a bonus at the end of this stage. But going off like that will obviously lose time, and you can see maybe 3 or 4 seconds is counted down before we get any kind of speed whatsoever. Only in top gear can we start to overtake those other riders, but because we selected level 1 from the options menu, that's the easiest, and so we get plenty of time to get to the line, and that means it's a very fast thrill ride and an almost guaranteed victory. The only thing to do now is to slow down and to collect our bonus points. By using the gearbox and making maximum use of those revs, we can gear up into top gear, and that will get us around those first few guys on this desert level. Unfortunately, if you hit the back of another rider at top gear, then you'll find yourself out, and it's a great animation there of the guy falling off that bike. And it's also great to see those dials with the speedo, rev counter, and even gears. We didn't get those on Pitstop 2, which Stephen Landrum produced before this, but there has been upgrades since Pitstop 2. You can see the frame rate is much faster and even smoother, and even those corners are faster and even more forgiving than they were on Pitstop 2. Yes, you still get a massive burst of oversteer just when you exit those tight corners and you have to follow the racing line. You still get a massive burst of oversteer right at the end, so hopefully you can deal with that on these corners. And yes, the corners do get harder as the game goes on. On this desert level the game is fast still, and the green level introduced us to a very fast game, and one which you really shouldn't be crashing out of, even in top gear, because the bikes really do give you a lot of warning when they appear, and it is possible, if you are quick, to jam on those brakes and avoid all crashes. So that's the second level of the 12 completed, and yes, if I crash right on the end, it won't do us any harm whatsoever. Unlike Pitstop 2, we do not get car damage, we do not get tyre damage, we do not get fuel. So all we need to do is to keep that thing pointed in a straight line. We'll either survive or die, and if we fall off, we'll just have to drag that bike back and continue. You can see the screen is actually split in half, and the top half is the game and the bottom half is the dashboard virtually, and that saves the frame rates and makes this game playable. Maybe a two-player mode would have been terrific, but maybe that two-player mode would have been a compromise given the tremendous frame rates that Stephen managed to get out of the Commodore 64. Everything is very smooth at 60 frames per second, and those trees really do fly by there. Those palm trees are a great effect. We do have the backgrounds, which some say are rather bland, but what can you really hope for on a Commodore 64? Those backgrounds have clouds and no dual layer of parallax scrolling, but when you think that this game came on the heels of games like Super Hang-On, which was absolutely terrible on the Commodore 64, with terrible garish colour schemes, and the best thing about it was perhaps the music. So I think this game is head and shoulders over Super Hang-On. Between 3 races, we'll also get to go through the bonus stage, and that makes up one of the 12 tracks in this game. And the bonus stage, all we need to do is to collect those flags. Just like Buggy Boy perhaps, we have to manoeuvre around the course as usual at high speed, because we'll get bonus time as usual, but also if we collect those flags in the shortest time, then we'll collect the biggest prize. So if we meander and follow those flags around, and yes, sometimes we can bump those guys out of the way without blowing up, and if we collect all those flags, you can see it's great that we have tremendous score and we have lots and lots of time in this game. We certainly will run out of time if we choose the harder modes, and level 3 mode is the hardest. Well, that doesn't really give us a massive amount less time, and the game is still possible, but on the hardest mode you really can't afford any crashes, whereas level 1, this is really child's play. So this is the bonus track over. I really liked the animated flag guy at the beginning, and that was obviously influenced by Outrun, and it's a shame we don't have someone waving a flag on the original Outrun on the Commodore 64, but they really did pack a lot into this game. It was modelled originally on Hang-On, and as I say, Outrun. Unfortunately we don't have branching roads, but we do have fast racing action. In this level 5 you can see traffic cones, and if we drive over those at high speed, well, we'll crash out of course, but you see oil slicks as well, and those will make the rider slip, so it's best to avoid everything in this game and stick like glue to the right hand lane, and then you can avoid most of these hazards, maintaining that speed all times. On the easy level you can probably crash out maybe twice, maybe 3 times and still get away with a great time and a great game. But even on this easy level, it's still not easy. In general, the controls are very tight, but I would say this bike is very twitchy. And certainly, if you want to get around all those corners, you'll have to preempt the hardest ones, and if you can't, well, you'll crash but in general, yes, the bike is very twitchy, and understeer on those difficult corners will actually kick us into those lampposts you can see. And I don't know whether we are supposed to be driving over a lake or a bridge or what, but let's persevere and continue on to the end of this round. Each level is significantly different from each other, and here we find snow, and you might also find ice on the road as well, so obviously avoid that unless you want to skid out at high speed. Those rocks look very forgiving, so the graphics in this game are, well, they are functional. I wouldn't say it has tons of graphics, not like Super Hang-On and Outrun Europa and maybe Turbo Outrun, but it has functional graphics. But that doesn't harm the playability, and the momentum in this game is still high. The game doesn't have any in-game music either, but what it does have is tremendous crashes and wild maneuvers at high speed. Perhaps one of the worst aspects is in the sound effects department, and the revving of the engine is just about good enough, and I have to give it leniency because it's a bike game. It doesn't sound as good as it did in Pitstop 2. And, well, the crashing is a great sound effect, but the skidding, unfortunately, is a very bad sound effect, and why couldn't they have chosen a better sound than that? The next level is a night course, and just like all night courses, all that will change is the night sky will turn black, and it doesn't alter our view whatsoever. There is a limit to what you can do on a Commodore 64, but it's great to see that there are oil patches on the road and even water patches as well, and so the game is throwing extra material towards us on every single level, and that makes the game more playable, and it just breaks up the action when you have something else to avoid. It's still not easy to overtake those other guys, and you have to be in the right line, of course, and if you're not, well, you'll be off, and it's best to take these corners easy and slow down to match that speed of the corner, and if you can accelerate out, that's great, but don't try and maneuver on that corner, otherwise you'll find yourself out. It takes some time to get us there, but once we reach that high speed, it's a really great atmosphere, and it's a really great playable game. In fact, much improved over the mechanics of Pitstop 2. Otherwise, like I say, a two-player mode would have been terrific. But here we go on yet again to the end of another level. I guess the loading times, trying to load this off disk, is a bit of a problem, and I can't imagine how long the loading times would have been from the tape. But you can see mid-level it isn't too bad, and as long as we keep the same colour scheme and the same sprites, then we haven't really got too much to load into that Commodore 64. And you can see it even gives the player a break. Even if they haven't had break from the loading, they can still have a break before they begin. So let's press the fire button and kick this bonus round off. Once again, the bonus round comprises of collecting flags, and it's great that we have those things. And at this stage and on this level, it is way too easy. Maybe that's one of the criticisms of this game. And on the hard mode, it is harder, and many people said it wasn't hard enough. So I'll just tell you a little more about this game. It was produced by Stephen H. Landrum, again by Epix in 1986. You may remember Stephen worked on the Summer Games and designed that, and he also worked with Dennis Caswell on Pitstop 2 in 1984. He then moved on to The Temple of Apshai in 1986, and then from there Supercycle emerged in 1986, and Stephen's last great game on C64 was Skate or Die, which appeared in 1987. The graphics in Supercycle were created by Michael Kosaka, who worked on World Games for Epix in 1986, and the unusual Sentinel Worlds Part 1 in 1989 for Electronic Arts. The music was created by Bob Vieira, and he moved on to the game's Summer Edition in 1988. I'm just going to speed this footage up a little, and you can see on this level there is blocks in the road, and no, we can't just stay in the right hand lane. No, we have to switch from right to left at high speed, and you can see I've speeded this up double just to get through this review, because I think you know how much I like this game already. I think the graphics are great, even though, as I say, the colours add black, more black leathers in this game, and even the brown leathers don't look too great. But the colour schemes are a bit bad, but apart from that, the other riders don't meander left and right around the track, and they are pretty intelligent, and even crashing after we cross the line doesn't penalise us, which is great. And moving swiftly along to the next level, well, just like Lotus 2 on the Amiga, we actually find a storm level, so let's check that out. Unfortunately, we don't get any rain. No, the C64 probably couldn't cope with that, but what we do get is more fast action, some water on the road, and, well, a flashing effect in the sky, and a very some sound effects when that sky erupts into rumbles of thunder, and we get lightning as well. So it's not bad, we don't get any forks or anything like that, but again, the effect is there, and it helps once again to give us a great sense of atmosphere. I must say, I really do love the playability and the handling of this bike, and let's speed this bike up again. Perhaps one of the downsides is crashing off, having to start all the way over again and being slow, and of course crashing out is never a nice feeling on any racing game, and sometimes that massive burst of under and then oversteer when we are trying to get around those corners doesn't help, and that flings us off into the side. But for the most part, there isn't really much point slowing down in this game unless you find a really difficult corner, and then yes, braking is helpful. But if you're going off, then you're going off, and sometimes you can't help that, particularly on levels like this when there are yet again barriers on both sides, and the players, they're giving us a hard time. Luckily, if we don't give them a hard time, they won't give us one in return. And sliding off the end gives us, well, a reduction in speed, which actually helps us on that corner. So sometimes strafing those curbs helps, and on this level we have to stay in the right hand lane again, and sometimes if that road is determined to throw us off, it won't give us any warning, no chevrons, nothing like that. You'll just have to spin off, crash, and come back and try it all over again. So, well, we have over a minute to go, and so it doesn't take that long to complete the game end to end, which is another great point. And, well, crashing incessantly on the hard mode is difficult enough, but it can be actually a laugh on this easy mode when, you know, time is very much in the bag. So let's speed up there, and I think maybe the dash could have been drawn a little better, even though again it's great to see those dials working in action, and anything which doesn't spoil this frame rate is great. and then the only thing which really spoils it is the crashing, and then the frame rate stops, of course. So let's try that all over again. Particularly at this stage, it helps to be delicate on those controls and to ease off and hope that that rev counter will give us an indication of the best place to have that around all these corners, and usually straight up vertical is the best place to have it. This is the last of the 12 tracks in this game, and as you can see it's collecting flags, but also it's more annoying because the oil is there, and that makes a very annoying sound effect indeed. So whilst you put up with that, we'll just go through the scores. Commodore user gave Supercycle 70% in October 1986, Steam VG gave this 80%, Your Computer gave it 80%, and Zap gave it 95% in October 86, claiming that every stage was highly addictive and challenging, but of course the colours of the riders riding leathers left a bit to be desired, and yes, I fully agree with that. On top of that, I think the screeching is a bit of a pain, and it's a little too easy in all the modes. So apart from that, I think everything else is immaculate, and it's a terrific game. If only all racing games ran at this speed and fluidity on a Commodore 64. So I really think that they did push the levels, and I think that this is a really tremendous game, and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. So let's tick down those final bonus seconds, which give us times 100 score, and well done. That means we get to load on the disk version the high score table, which will hopefully save to disk. And in this game we can have actually 99 scores apparently on the high score table, and we can scroll using F5 and F6 to scroll up and down those after pressing F1 on the title menu. So here we go, let's enter our name. We are actually 11th, which doesn't sound so bad for completing the game, but you can see in 10th I actually gained more score by crashing out on the third level, which is the hardest. Thank you once again for viewing another Lemon 64 play guide and review. Hope to see you again sometime soon.